Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salāmun Alaykum, everyone. We will be starting by God's will the Quran study of chapter 56, the inevitable Surah Al-Waqiyah. And we start within the by reciting, I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. When the inevitable comes to pass, nothing can stop it from happening. It will lower some and raise others. The earth will be shaken up, the mountains will be wiped out as if they never existed. So, this chapter's name is inevitable, meaning it is inevitable that the day of judgment or the end of the world or the day of resurrection, God has called it by many names because it would be a great event. The ending of the world or our existence on earth, no more reproduction of anything. The test of humanity will be over. It's definitely a very big event, and it's not going to be an easy one. We human beings are given certain time on this planet called Earth, which is very far away from God. Many universes. There are like six universes between us and the highest level of existence, or the universe. And as these students of Quran, we all know that we must believe in it. We must believe in the hereafter, the day of judgment. Um, as you can see already, like how we are going, the end of the world is anyway inevitable. The way things are going and how the nature is taking its course. The you can see like in a century later in what shape this world will be. So inevitable things are happening. Everything has its age and it expires. And since God has already have a predetermined time, so it is taking its course. Just like we as human beings, we all have a predetermined time of our end of our lives. So so God is talking about it that when it happens, nothing can stop it from happening. You know, do we have any power to stop that day? Not at all. We cannot even stop a small hurricane from happening, even though they can predict it's coming, you know, and it takes as many towns in its loop. The houses are flying and everything, and that's a little glimpse of what will happen on that day. Is like God says the mountains will be flying like fluffy wool, like the gravity will be gone or whatever system is just going to crash. So that is a day which is inevitable, and we must be prepared for it. That is the day of judgment where every soul will come to stand up in front of its Lord, and the judgment will happen. And the eternity of life is going to start after that. Nothing physical will be there which is going to expire after that. It will be either eternal bliss or eternal misery in hell, God forbid. And then the earth will be shaken up, the mountains will be wiped out. Just imagine, like, how when we go, like, I have seen like really big mountains. The country I used to live in, and one of the highest peaks in the world. And if you are near those areas, you see the magnificence, that how you feel so small, and it's the awe. You're in awe. Like, I've seen like certain mountains so high that if you're on top of it, the oxygen level goes down. So, and then when they will be wiped off or flying like fluffy wool, what kind of scene that would be? So God has talked about the the this day in so many ways in the Quran. But really, it is hard to imagine. We cannot imagine anything like that. This kind of devastation on this scale is really, really hard to imagine. I mean, we have seen floods, we have seen hurricanes, we have seen tsunamis. All of that would be, compared to this event, will be nothing. So small, because it would be a total, the existence of this earth will be just gone. God says, as if they never existed. Never. Just imagine, like, wow, what a scene that will be. You know, are our hearts prepared for that? You know, are our eyes are, ready for that kind of scene? So why would God remind us all of this? That our souls are so strong because God will save all His believers from the devastation of that day. They will be struck unconscious, and they will be away from the harm of that day. But it would be a difficult day for the disbelievers. So it continues, verse 7. You will be stratified into three kinds. Those who deserved bliss will be in the bliss. Those who deserved misery will be in misery. Then there is the elite of the elite. They are those who will be closest to God in the gardens of bliss. Many from the first generations, few from the later generations. And the footnote for verse 13 says, a minute. Hmm, where is the footnote? Oh, sorry. People who believe and nourish their souls through worshipping God alone are destined for the high heaven. The contemporary followers of each messenger invariably suffer persecution from the traditionalists and adherents of the corrupted religion. Thus, they have a special place reserved for them in the high heaven. All people who die before the age of 40 go to the lower heaven, at least. So, as you know, that whenever a messenger comes, it is not easy for people to believe. A lot of people reject the message. So, the majority rejects the message because it is hard for them to accept something new, and they have to really challenge their thinking, and have to make a decision rationally with the proof and everything. And those who accept it, the first generation of every messenger, that is, we're saying generation, like before them there was the previous generation to them did not believe, but the entire generation, the first generation of that message, they accept. They are made fun of, people ridicule them, people go against them. A lot of people, it ends in a divorce, or parents would be really upset with their children, or a lot of every kind of uh, difficulties are created for them in the society, which is adhere to the old traditions, and for who knows how many centuries they are used to that. So God has a special reward for them. So God tells us there would be like three categories of, like, there are levels. Of course, God is the most just God, and He appreciates every effort a human being makes, or every sacrifice a human being makes um, to make God number one priority, and they don't worry about other things. So God will give them rewards accordingly, and this is how um, most just is God, and He will not never lets any of your or our worship or struggle, or whatever persecution you face in the name of God would get in, you know would be not in vain. So more people will be from that first generation. And so if you are the first generation, mashallah, congratulations to you. If we make it, um, and there are better rewards. And few from the later generations. Now, when later generation, let's say the first generation established the religion and they taught their children, their offspring, those children would not be in the same category because they inherited once again something from their parents and they're used to it, right? They don't face that much persecution. They're already, but if they maintain righteousness and everything, they still, subhanallah, will go to heaven. And, and God talks about luxurious furnishings. Um, Few from the later generations on luxurious furnishings, enjoying everything. They will be neighbors. Serving them will be immortal servants with cups, pitchers, and pure drinks. They never run out, nor do they get bored. So, subhanallah, that God is describing. God picks up every beautiful word to describe heaven and every kind of example to describe hell as well. Because God says He has pointed out both ways in the Quran, consequences of both ways in the Quran. So then on the day of judgment, you cannot say, we didn't know that. But here we are, we have to make our own free will choice with our own free will. How much we really believe what God is saying. Do we really believe in the hereafter? Are we doing things for this world or the gain in the hereafter? What is our importance? What is our priority? Are we listening to God, what God is saying? He's describing all these beautiful things for us to have a motivation, to look forward to a goal which is so awesome, more than winning any championship, more than building an empire and becoming a CEO of that, more than collecting billions of dollars. It's all gonna stay here. When we leave, we will be just all by ourselves, our soul only, and how much that soul has developed, because that is a gain which is eternal. That gain will give us reward which never ends. It has no recession time. It has no downtime. It's a stock which has gone up and it is gonna stay up. You know, eternal benefit. We really cannot imagine, even though God has described so much, but it's hard to encompass. That level of bliss. So these are little examples God is giving. Just imagine, you're on luxurious furnishings, enjoying everything. They will be neighbors, all the people in the heaven, lower heaven and higher heaven, they still will be neighbors, they will still enjoy. It's okay, um, every soul will get according to their growth, that level. And then serving them will be immortal servants. Imagine, you know, these immortal servants are never going to get tired of serving you. Sometimes we know that in this life, a lot of people have servants, you know, and you pay them, and certain countries have a lot, even you have little, you can still find a servant. But they get tired and they can be annoyed for serving their masters or whoever they're working for. But these will be immortal. God will send immortal servants to serve them. Imagine, this reward just to worship God alone, and while He's already blessing us with everything already, all what we have to do is be thankful to Him for all the blessings, for giving us a second chance in this life. It's amazing. with cups, pitchers, and pure drinks. They never run out, nor do they get bored. Fruits of their choice, meat of birds that they desire, beautiful mates, like protected pearls, reward for their works. They never hear any nonsense therein, nor sinful utterances, only the utterance, peace, peace. Subhanallah. This is a beautiful wording. Throughout this surah, it's the flow is so beautiful, and this one has nothing but talking about bliss. But sometimes there is a surah which will have a lot of, we have warnings and everything. This one is just description, step by step, and luxurious furnishings and bliss and pure drinks, you know, uh, cups, with cups, pitchers, and pure drinks. Now, God never runs out of words or shy away from any example. God is describing that you'll be holding these beautiful cups with pure drinks. I mean, we have all kinds of drinks in this world. We have soda, we have juices, but everything has like, oh, this much has so much sugar in it, or this many calories, and is it good for me or not? Sometimes we don't even get pure water. It has some contamination. Um, there is it organic or not? And we're very conscious what we're taking in our body. And imagine when God is providing you something that how delicious and pure that is, meaning you will have no contamination of any kind. Perfect for something, whatever will give you nourishment or make you feel good. And then God talks about, and then you will never get bored. Now imagine you're living somewhere in eternity. Here, if we do a repetitive work, we get really bored easily. At least I do. I get bored of things very quickly. So now you're gonna live for eternal life. God has taken care of that. That you're never gonna get bored. Excitement, joy, bliss, happiness will be everywhere. You will do one thing and you will enjoy it. You will do another thing, you will still be happy. It, I really cannot encompass that kind of feeling which never runs out. Always feeling good. Really? Is that even possible? We know we have always ups and downs in this life. One day we feel on the top of the world, next day something small happens which is not according to our desire, and we're like, oh man, you know, we're not gonna have those moments. It's the reward for just growing our soul according to God's teachings, righteous works, and we grow it so strong that then it enters into a dimension where all of this is possible. Subhanallah. And then God talks about mates too, beautiful mates, meaning you're not gonna get bored. You will have companions, the perfect companions, God say, like protected pearls. You know how a pearl is protected in a shell in the bottom of a sea or somewhere, Then nobody can reach it, and it's just sitting there, a shiny, beautiful pearl. How God has designed a pearl is nothing less than amazement, you know, that you go in the ocean, you dive certain parts of the ocean in the world, and then there you dig out these shells and you open it, and there's this pair of pearls there waiting, was never touched by anybody, away from people, in the ocean, inside a shell. Look at example of these mates, that something so beautiful and shiny and perfect will be your companion or your mates. And then God says rewards for their works. I mean, many times we don't feel that we rewarded for something we did for some company or some work, and like I worked so hard and all I got was like, hey, great, that's it. No monetary reward for everything good you do, or no gesture. Sometimes you don't even get a gesture or even a thank you. But God rewards for everything we do. God, and multiplied in many folds. We don't even know the level of those folds and multiplication, how it happens. For example, you do something good for somebody, you invite them to the right path, and it's just an example, right? And then those people, they say, they hear the word of God and their life changes and their family's life changes and generations come because of a good word you gave them, the message, a, a message of truth from God. But that's just one example. The other is like you helped somebody financially, and that was a point where they could do so much, and many joyous moments came in their life because of that charity you gave, or you took care of some of their major need or saved them from a crisis. God rewards us. People cannot reward us, for whatever we do for them. But if we do something for God in this life too, the rewards we get in this life and in the hereafter multiplied manifold. And this is what God is telling us in these verses, that our worships and our steadfastness is not going to be wasted. They never hear any nonsense therein nor sinful utterances. Only the utterance, peace, peace. Peace is something everybody wants, in this life. We, it's very hectic. We are in very hectic times these days. Um, and there's like chaos everywhere. But submitters, or gods who are submitting to God's will find peace at their heart. And that is the ultimate search of people. They go looking for peace to, they would drive many hours to go near a lake or ocean or a resort. That, I'm away from work, I'm away from hectic traffic, and this is my peaceful time. But week later you come back to the same noise, traffic, pollution, and whatnot. Work, work, work. No peace. You know, the only peace we get at nighttime when we close our eyes. That's how life is. Um, but God says, over there's not going to be any nonsense. Imagine the environment which has nothing wrong in it. Wow. Can we even think about such a thing? No sinful utterances, meaning nothing annoying will come your way. You will not hear anything which is bad, has no sense, and can bring any kind of stress, or any negative energy, or anything. Purity of environment like that, unimaginable, unimaginable. Sometimes we have very peaceful moment away from the world, or some isolated place, or whatever, or maybe it can be your room where you're feeling peaceful today. You close your door. I'm like, I don't need any, anything, nobody knocking at my door or asking for anything. Just looking for that peaceful moment. Even but with the peace we will get there, inshallah, with no comparison. That would be just the peace which is so deep that we all crave for in this world, even for a few moments. And that would be eternal. Eternal peace, eternal bliss. Those of the right side will be on the right side, in lush orchards, fragrant fruits, extended shade. Uh, 1 minute. Abundant water, many fruits, never ending, never forbidden, luxurious furnishings. We create for them mates, never previously touched, perfectly matched. For those on the right side, many from the early generations, many from the later generations. So the later generations, it says, people who believe and nourish. Yeah, I read about that. So there will be first generation and later generation, and there will be a little bit of yeah, some who in the later generations even who worked hard and um, you know they develop their soul to a level, they will be also in high heaven as well. So God says, but there will be more from the early generations and fewer from the little bit fewer amount from the later generations. But every generation can reach to that level where they can go into high heaven. It really depends on how much work they put in their worships and remembering God and growing their souls and doing good things. We have this very limited time to do all the good we can do and make God our only God. And we stay away from idol worship. And our every priority to in this life should be to make to for God, to work for God. And we don't when we work for God, we're God's workers, and we don't expect rewards from people in this life. And we're not here to make people, please people. We are here to please our soul and God. And our soul will be happy only when it is pleasing God, and God is so appreciative that He has set up all these rewards already for you. So the mates will never be touched, meaning completely a design, untouched mates according to your desire. How if you can imagine somebody in this life, like, hey, I want to have this kind of companion whom I never get bored with. We never have arguments. We're always complimenting each other. We're perfectly matched. That's what God will do. He will find, He has designed us, created us. He knows what would be perfect for us. We choose somebody sometimes thinking, wow, this is my perfect match in life. I have achieved already, this person. Few months, few years later, you find you guys have nothing in common anymore, and then you're fighting. That is not going to happen there. That would be a match from God, perfect for each other. Imagine that. Um, Now, this was all about. This is a long surah. I'm gonna. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about hell now, and which is here, and I will end it at 56, God willing. So that was the nicer picture that is waiting, but there is another side. What if we fail to grow our soul? What if we did not take heed from all this description in the Quran, all the warnings and all the news, and we just let it pass? We didn't pay attention. We picked and chose certain things we like, certain things we don't like, you know, and we just heedless. Sure, I'm doing my religion, but I'm also doing other things in life. And yeah, we'll see. No, we have to be sure about heaven and hell. This is what it is all about. Achieve heaven and avoid hell. It is not going to be nice. And as we're going to read next verses, that is going to give us a glimpse. Those of the left will be on the left, in misery and inferno. Even their shade is hot, never cool, never tolerable. They used to be rich. They insisted on the great blasphemy. They said after we die and turn to dust and bones, we get resurrected. So right and left is just, God is way of saying that there's this side and there's that side. Otherwise, I don't think it has any political meaning to it. So the right and the right side and the left side is just, two different directions opposite to each other. That's in my opinion. So in misery and inferno, and now God is talking about cool shades, perfect this and bliss and all that, and suddenly we envision this now. The inferno, in misery and inferno. Have we ever stood nearby a huge fire? We see sometimes lately there's been fire in California and Australia, and the inferno, you can see a glimpse of inferno. That miles and miles of flames and smoke, an unbearable eh, environment and air, animals dying, and destruction, constant destruction, and big inferno you can't even control for days and sometimes for months. And it takes in its rage everything come in its ways, and it becomes ash, non-habitable, you know, trees and animals and anything just keeps on going. And then the fire is not something to be messed with. We cannot be near fire. I mean, we can take advantage of fire for cooking and all that and heat. But if it goes out of control, it can just take your life in moments, you know. Even their shade is hot. Even their shade is hot. Have you heard anything like that? Yes. You can imagine, like, if you're near big fire and, let's forget about the fire. If there are countries, the summertime, the weather is so hot. The weather you're sitting under a tree shade or anything, it's not gonna provide you any coolness. It is that hot. So that is how God is giving us this example. Never cool, never tolerable. They used to be rich. They insisted on the great blasphemy. What is the great blasphemy? They said, after we die and turn to dust and bones, we get resurrected. Now, this is the great blasphemy, not believing in the hereafter. It's blasphemous. The, the pillars of our belief includes the hereafter. For example, you can be a very good person. You're charitable, and I'm taking care of this charity or that. Uh, I'm a philanthropist and everything. But if I didn't believe, I didn't do it for God's sake. I didn't nourish my soul. I just did something for this earth, and yes, God rewards all the good works. But I said, no, I don't believe in the hereafter. I'm just a good person. That is not just a wrong thing. It's God says it's a blasphemy not to believe. So God says we have to believe in God and the last day. And this surah is the inevitable. God is saying in strongest words that it is inevitable, guys. No matter what you think, you're lost in this world. An inevitable moment is waiting for this world to end, and you are part of it. And that you will be resurrected, not you will this everything will end and you will be peacefully sleeping now forever. No, no, no. We're gonna all wake up and we're gonna be accountable for what we are doing. We must be prepared for resurrection. Does this include our forefathers? No, no, the question, doubts in human minds. Really, what happened to them? We buried them, and are they gonna come back too? Say the early generation and the later generations will be summoned to a meeting on a predetermined day. Then you, O disbelieving strayers, will eat from the trees of bitterness, filling your bellies therefrom, the drinking on top of, then drinking on top of it hellish drinks, then adding drinks of sand. Such is their share on the day of judgment. Oh, now what a contrast. We talked about beautiful mates and shade and bliss and companions and drinks and furnishings. Suddenly, this is the other side of the fact. Is everything is contrast to that, opposite to that. Constant misery, inferno, and when God talks about, they used to be rich. No matter how rich you are, you would think some rich people are living such a life of luxury. But man, this life is like a blink of an eye. When we disappear from here. And all of this richness and all the mountains of gold and hoarding of money and whatnot is gonna be like nothing. God actually says in the Quran that people would be ready to give up anything, even their children, to save the retribution of hell, let alone worldly things like gold and whatever. It's a great blasphemy. So we must be mindful of that day all the time, because that is a reminder to self. What am I doing? What are my priorities? It changes life. The belief in the hereafter changes everything. Many people say we believe in God. Many people say there is God, but really they're doubtful about the day of judgment. And God calls it an inevitable event going to happen. So the tree of bitterness, the food, God described the food in the other one, pure drinks and fruits of their desire. And here, even there will be like you might see a tree, and that is, the fruit is like so bitter that you spit it out, filling your bellies therefrom, then drinking on top of that hellish drinks. Now all the drinks in hell would be such bad variety that you might think it's gonna take care of my thirst, but it would be something which will make it even worse. These are allegorical examples, then adding drinks of sand. Imagine few grains of sand in our mouth, how uncomfortable it makes us. A drink of sand? That is really something we have to be mindful of, that the alternative to not following God's commandments and not growing our soul accordingly to God's teachings has very devastating effects and results. Such is their share on the day of judgment. So, inshallah, I will finish my Quran study at this point, God willing. Please feel free to make a comment or a question. Thank you. Praise God.
Inshallah, thank you.
MashaAllah, praise God. It's Quran study.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, MashaAllah, we used to ended in about the comment about adding the drinks of sand. I mean, we can don't really understand what kind of drink would that be. Would that be some kind of liquid with the sand mixed in it? It only brings like one thing in the mind. When have you ever been so thirsty, so badly thirsty that you just want something to drink, and there was no water available. And this kind of situation, I mean, personally have suffered that situation. And also one time I was so hungry out, and I was in part of the country in Pakistan where like I could not find any food, and you just want something to eat. So that kind of desperate situations, what happens is that it's like God is teaching you that what things can get to this situation where you will be forced, your stomach will force you to eat anything. I mean, just to fill your belly. And I was so hungry that there was some guy, he has those pickles, the mango pickles. So there was one piece that I found, and that thing is so sour that you cannot eat it. But I was so hungry that I was forced to eat it just to kill the hunger. That thing's like, that kind of environment tells you that in hell, people will be forced into that situation where nobody will tell them, probably not even the guardian. Hell will push them to drink or eat certain food, that they will be so hungry that they're going to go out there, and they'll go to that tree of bitterness, and they'll get those fruits where the fruit, the shape is, God says in another place, they look like the devil's head, and it's so bitter that they will eat it just to kill the hunger on their stomach, and the drinks with sand, they'll gulp it down just to kill the thirst. I don't know if you ever eaten something that is so bitter. There's a tree that grows. It's called the neem tree, and the leaves are so bitter. And we used to drink that when we were little, because it says it detoxifies your stomach and cleans your blood. For that reason, we would drink it, and it was so bitter that it's so hard to gulp it down. And these are the fruits that I mean, we were doing it just for cleaning the blood or the benefits of it, but people will eat it just because they're so hungry. I mean, why God is mentioning that, and why God lets you go through the experience in the world that I mean, these are not something that something new. We all understand this phenomenon that when you are so hungry or when you're so thirsty, you will even go out, and there's some pool of water somewhere where probably you would not even walk in there. But if you ever have come to this situation where you're so thirsty that you will just take a drink out of it. Like sometimes you have seen people will drink out of a river, which in normal condition you will not do it because you're so these kind of things that God teaches you, that these things can happen. And in hell, they will only amplify such a higher level, that I mean, all these things for us. Why God is mentioning that to convince us, to motivate us to keep on working. Inshallah, that's my comment for now.
Yeah, imagine sometimes, it's really hot weather and you're very thirsty, and somebody brings you a glass of water, and when you drink it, it's actually hot water. And you were like, what? I was looking for cold, freezing water, and you just have this half like hot water. But imagine, the thirst, level of thirst, and then you have these choices. I mean, that's really sad, very sad. We have to be extra careful in this life that our choices do not bring us to wrong path. We have to be like very clear about God's religion and what it dictates. There is no it, Quran is very straightforward when it comes to things we need to do to grow our souls, you know and we shouldn't be taking anything for granted or taking it easy or be flexible about this or that. Okay, it's okay if I bring a little bit of, so what if it is, at least people are happy. I'm saying something uh which is not so harsh. Like when you sometimes you're in a debate with people, and I'm talking about other submitters, that God's book is clear about its laws, and you just don't want to be talking to people with clarity, and you just because their views are not matching with the Quran, but they're nice people, and take a firm stand and you say no, but the Quran says this. But then you think, oh, what if I'm sounding harsh and these people are not gonna like me after that? I am not trying to please God here. Clearly, my priority now has changed and I'm trying to make this person happy and twisting the law of God a little bit to accommodate their close mindedness. Am I a nice person now then? No. I'm not only going to hurt my own soul, but there too. I could be responsible for that because I am now trying to augment their doubt. And I'm like, it's okay. You can be doubtful as long as you think I'm a nice person and I'm talking nicely to you. So, this is the world we are living in right now. People are afraid to annoy or their fellow, submitters or a community people. At the end of the day, nobody's going to be standing up for us except us. There is a
Yeah,
question. Sorry, there was earlier a question. I just want to, so we don't forget this. Our somebody is asking, explain 3 185, Surah 3, verse 185. Can somebody address that, please?
You want to address it?
I did the study of the Quran.
Okay, okay, okay.
I've talked enough.
Okay, so
Mashallah,
okay.
go ahead.
So 3185 says, a great triumph. Every person tastes death, then you receive your recompense. On the day of resurrection, whoever misses hell barely and makes it to paradise has attained a great triumph. The life of this world is no more than an illusion. So I'm not exactly sure like what part is like where we need more clarification. So if I have that uh, information, I guess would be easier to understand what part. Like, is it about every person tasting death? That's like what part is the question about? Uh, I mean, I guess until I have the information, I can just tell you that. I mean, we all have to leave this world, right? The the believer, whether you're a believer or disbeliever, we're all created as mortal people who are going to die in this world. So, as far as this world is concerned, now, as far as the death of a righteous person and an unrighteous person, they're two very different experiences. Um, Basically, God says that the righteous do not really die. So, as long as this world is concerned, they leave, or you can say, quote unquote, they die. But as in reality, what really happens is they don't experience death as we know it, where the angels come and they beat the person and they snatch the souls out. What really happens for a righteous believer is that just when the time of death comes, before they experience any sort of discomfort or pain, an angel comes and invites them to gently leave their soul and depart this world. And that's it. So, but nevertheless, whether you're righteous or unrighteous, every person dies as far as this world is concerned. And then on the day of judgment, we receive our recompense. So that's that. And then whoever misses hell barely, makes it to paradise has attained a great triumph. So even if you go to the purgatory, end up in the purgatory, and then you end up being annexed into lower heaven, even that is a great triumph, because you have missed this and eternal torment, and you've entered into a place where you'll have comfort and peace and blessings, right? Better than anything you've experienced in this world. So that is a great triumph, God calls it. So even that is, good success, great success, God says, and compare it, comparing that to this life, it's nothing. And this life is just a temporary illusion. That's it. That's what the verse is telling us.
Yeah. So I guess one part of that is, yeah, mashallah, you explained it very well. So it is kind of straightforward. Every person tastes that, obviously. There is no one single example we have on this planet that a person been living forever. The body has to expire at one point, and then the soul, so that means physically we die. Everybody dies, and except the righteous, the soul, they will never experience the death. They will be just, it's like your soul will be walking out of the body and go into another good dimension directly. Um, and the other part is whomever misses hell barely. That's a great point here that even, people go to lower heaven or the lower heaven, or barely, like let's say you had 51 points and 49 points against, negative and 51 plus. Our soul was barely enough grown to survive hell, because it's the judgment will be how many. God talks about, gives the example of the whose weights are heavy, meaning if a little bit, an ounce of, credit takes us to heaven and we barely miss hell, it's a great triumph, because we just read the surah about how terrible the contrast between heaven and hell is huge. It's just pure bliss and pure misery. It's just, we really cannot encompass that on this level. Our brain, we haven't seen hell, we really, but we have, seen pain and misery in this life. And imagine that pain and misery. If somebody gets sick, they're hopeful that one day I can get better, or there's medication keeping me, painless. But there is no escape from hell. There is no hope that one day it's going to get better. So that's kind of, is a great triumph if any soul uh, even barely makes it to heaven. Mashallah.
Yeah, one of the confusion might somebody have is that when God says the righteous, they really don't die. But then this verse will be, in a way, someone see it as a contraindicating. That might be the part of the question. But if you, I mean, as a righteous person, the death is basically death of the body, and both righteous and or anybody, their physical body comes to end, and then you can see somebody is dead on the bed. Basically the soul has departed. And for bad people, the experience of death is so horrified that God says one place that the angels beat them on the rear end to pull them out of their body, their souls, but their souls are not nourished enough for them to survive, so they live in that state of dream until the day of judgment, where they see day and night horrible dream. But those who have nourished their soul to such a tremendous level, then when their soul leaves the body, they're just in itself is so powerful that they can survive in some form we can understand. So the death process is same, but the righteous, they just continue living. Their body dies, but they continue living. One way to explain. And one of the confusion could be that what happens to those people? They will go to the purgatory or the lower heaven. Do they also, their soul also die, or does not? uh, I don't find any information in the Quran, but I don't know, if you may know something about that part, that what happened to those people. Do they also, of course they don't see nightmares. Do they also go to that heaven? Even the people that will go to the lower heaven, do they also go to some place in like lower heaven? Is that, what do you think?
I'm sorry, what was that, Adam? I missed it a little bit.
You know how the God says the righteous, they don't really die. They go back to where Adam and Eve lived. So those
Yeah,
people that
yeah.
died before 40, them and those who have did not nourish their soul enough to go to the higher heaven, and their soul is enough to go to lower heaven or purgatory, what happened to their soul when they come to, leave this world? What happened to them?
Well, I don't know if the purgatory, God did not, I don't see the explanation about purgatory, because if they won't go straight to paradise, they will be in purgatory. So until, given enough time to purify their souls. But God has talked about the paradise. Obviously, the levels of heaven will be assigned after the day of judgment. So in between their two places, this is my imagination. Paradise is not actually high heaven or lower heaven. Paradise is another good place where Adam and Eve once lived. And then purgatory, they could probably in purgatory. That is like a place, not paradise, but maybe another place where the process of purification is going to happen. The purgatory is not really described in the Quran, according to my knowledge, but obviously it's not hell or heaven. But it's like another where, for example, some exercises, you go to a camp to get ready for someplace else, like an athlete. You go to, I watch I watch a lot of sports. they they go to like a, before the actual games start, they go to like a camp where all kinds of exercises are done, getting in the right shape and mental capacity to be able to perform on a high level, right? So the purgatory would be a place not where some kind of the process or teaching or something, because those souls have definitely avoided hell. They're not going to hell, so but their soul is not good enough to withstand God's energy either to be in heaven. So because the distance from God determines the levels of everything. So the elite of elite will be the closest to God because their soul is so big that they can absorb more of, they can withstand God's energy. And then lower heaven, their souls are definitely smaller than the high level, so they are on a little distance from God. The purgatory will be a much lower, but not as low. So where they don't have enough soul to be able to on a little higher level, which is heaven. So I believe they will be given some kind of exercises to develop their soul.
So I think I kind of want to clarify here. Like I think you said that heaven and paradise are separate things.
That's what I feel.
Well, if you look at the descriptions of paradise and heaven, like they're the same in the Quran. Like you know what it says, for example, righteous go straight to heaven, right? So if you look
Hmm.
at the footnote, it says the righteous do not really die; they go straight to heaven,
Okay.
right? So you're saying they go to paradise, but not heaven. But it says they go straight to heaven, and then it says when their interim on earth comes to an end, the angel of death simply invites them to go to the same paradise where Adam and Eve once lived. So that's the
But
so it's synonymous basically. If you
okay, what I
if you
feel is that because the high heaven and lower heaven would be assigned after the judgment. So I don't think people are already going to high heaven or lower heaven. So they are different places. Then maybe this is
well
like a neutral heaven.
well and
Uh,
I mean the thing is that if you if you have gained enough credits, you already have a place assigned to you in heaven, right? So, but you go to heaven. Which heaven it is, we don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, depending on the person's ability, like what they
mhm.
deserve, they'll get it. I mean,
Right.
there's a place reserved for everybody. So
Hmm.
when you die, you go there. Now, when you get your ranking, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that that's good. I don't think that means that you don't go there until you get your results. But what I do agree with that is, yeah, I mean, for purgatory is a different story, because these people who are in purgatory, God has not made the judgment to enter them in heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they will not go to heaven uh, until God makes that judgment. However, the people who die under 40, God has already made the judgment that these people deserve to go to heaven, at least lower heaven, based on the growth of
Mm-hmm.
their soul.
Okay.
So they go, you know.
Mm.
But purgatory, they haven't deserved it with their souls. They didn't grow them enough.
It's not enough
Right.
growth. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they wait
I
uh, un-
see. I don't
until
know
God
why I
makes it.
always thought paradise like is a something that like a common ground, a waiting ground for the righteous, and then assignment of higher and lower heaven will be on the day of judgment, an
Mm-mm.
elite of the elite, that level. But if that paradise is a nice place where all the souls already,
Yeah.
gathered, I don't know.
Yeah,
Eh,
imagine, I
eh,
mean, for thousands of years, I mean, have
mhm,
passed, right? So where would, like, Abraham and Moses and all these people would be? They'll be waiting some common ground. No, I mean, they have a place that was reserved for them, you know,
mhm,
in this world.
mhm.
They go straight away. I mean, it's God's mercy. They go
Masha
straight away.
Allah.
But maybe it's like, just, maybe they have a record, a ranking that, you can show to everyone. Maybe that's just something that, might not be obvious for everybody, right, to see. But if you worked hard in this life and you deserve to be with God, I mean, God said in the Quran that, these things are reserved for them, right? So they
Mhm.
go there
True.
readily. They readily go there. They enjoy it. Like when Rashad, for example, had the out of body experience, he went and he met all of them, right? I mean, where would they be living? They wouldn't be waiting in some waiting area. I don't, it's, I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
God
you're
doesn't,
right.
yeah.
You're right.
So, yeah.
Because talks about God talks about Jesus, that they think he died, but he is alive at his God.
Hmm.
They are already elite of the elite, and they're near God already.
Hmm.
Mashallah. Well, thanks for clarifying. As I
Yeah.
said, that's what I thought. I
Okay.
always thought paradise is also like a little heaven, but not like a middle ground. Not
Yeah.
but that
Hmm.
allocation to high
Hmm.
heaven and lower heaven
Yeah.
will take
Also,
place after, I thought.
yeah. Also, another proof would be, if you look
Mm-hmm.
at if you look at the index,
Mm-hmm.
and in the index there for in heaven, it talks about fruits in heaven, right?
Yeah.
So in heaven, like fruits in heaven. So
Mm-hmm.
those the verses that are listed. One of them is saying allegorical description of paradise,
Mm-hmm.
which is 225.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 3657, uh, and
It's
then,
just another name.
yeah, it's
Okay.
just another name. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Just like many names for day of
yeah,
resurrection, day of judgment, the
yes,
shocker, this
yeah,
and that, and
that's right.
heaven and paradise,
Yeah,
different,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
interchangeable.
I'll post these verses on there. Maybe
No,
you
I
can.
got it. I got it. Mashallah, but you can post
Awesome.
it.
Yeah, no, I just for, I think, reference.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Sure. Mashallah.
Yeah, Masha, I used to think the same way as you, sister, that they're different, but I looked in different part of the Quran, and different words are used for both of them, Jannah, for heaven and paradise. And even Messenger of the Covenant have translated, like in Arabic Quran, God says, As-samawatu wal ard. Samawat is like skies, of layers of the skies, that the seven skies. But Messenger of the Covenant has translated as heaven, heavens and earth. So those are all considered in a way heaven. Pretty much like, if you think about it, anything out of this earth is pretty much heaven out there, because this is all God's kingdom, pure kingdom. I mean, if you leave this first incapacitated, the first sky, that the 7 layers, and out of that, the jinns cannot go out of that area. So probably everything is just obeying God. Pretty much everyone is in heaven, whoever is obeying God, trees and everything, pretty much. So I was also confused about that. And if you read Surah 7, where God is talking about the towards verse number 44 and 45, 46, where the people on the purgatory will look at the people in heaven and pray and praise them, and praying to God that please let us be among them. And when they will look at the people of hell, and they will pray to God, let us not be among those people. So it's pretty much when the hell is created in actual, and that's after the day of judgment. And these people will be, and maybe God will give them, like, for example, if you sit an exam where you are like on the borderline, and they'll give you extra time or extra curriculum, so they can make up extra points so they can pass the exam. So maybe these are people where their prayers and all that will make God giving them a little more time so they can
Yeah,
enter heaven, maybe. Mashallah.
Masha Allah.
Yeah, I mean, we can think of it, the people in purgatory, as people who didn't deserve it like readily, so they are like put on a waiting list almost, until God makes that judgment on the day of judgment.
Yeah. Also, like, it would be like, obviously soul now we cannot see, but it would be a physical matter for the hereafter, right? The
Mhm,
soul, the
mhm,
size of the soul actually has a value in that life. So if the soul is not, like, imagine if something is small and the light of God is so powerful that that's why people will run towards hell who haven't grown their soul. So that's a physical fact in the hereafter. So if the purgatory people, their soul is just short to absorb that light in even in the lower heaven, right? Because of obviously lower heaven is also closer to God than the hell would be the eighth level. So the purgatory people will have the process of purification and growing their soul to that physical level. It's like, like the example I gave was for athlete. There's 2-3 months they're put in that camp, and then they start practicing, and they get to that shape where now they're ready for the whole season. So they're in that physical shape. So if their soul will come to that physical shape by commemorating God or realizing or prostrating or whatever needed for them to be done in order to be in that healthy shape where they can actually uh, tolerate the immense energy of God. MashaAllah.
One more thing I want to clarify, mashallah, is as I was doing the last cross study, we were doing, mashallah, the first Surah 55 and the higher and lower heaven. And I made a comment that lower heaven, God says that they will be sitting on a green carpets. So, in that same surah, God is talking about the higher heaven where they have furnishing lined with satin. They will be sitting on it. And then I say that, okay, probably lower heaven, they don't even have furniture, so they'll be sitting on the green carpets. But here, how God clarifies that no, they do have luxury furnishings too as well.
Adam, that is so cute.
No, that's why I read it, and I like, maybe that's what it means. They don't have carpet; they just sit on the ground.
Hey, for you, it's just a pillow. Sit on the carpet.
Yes,
Yeah, I
their,
mean, we
their
have.
furniture from IKEA hasn't been
okay, they
delivered
have
yet.
furniture.
That
Thing
is
is,
so cute, Adam.
I think
Oh.
Well, the thing is, we
I
have
know, I know.
furniture. We have furniture in this world, so why wouldn't we have furniture
He's
in the
right,
afterlife?
right.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
not that type of like higher heaven, but maybe they have
Yeah,
furniture in not that
I
sense.
cannot imagine that furnishing. Oh my God.
Right.
I feel like you, you know, I'd rather be in this world than be in the lower heaven because there's
No, 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 no. Hey, if it's heaven and it's just the carpet, I don't mind that.
I know.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, I don't really mind that at all.
Yeah,
Subhanallah. At least it's not the tree of bitterness and
Oh
the
yeah.
yeah.
fire and all that. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like if you put it in perspective, like it would be more exquisite and more luxurious, you know,
Right.
Mm,
better
yeah,
quality, you know, first class compared to
yeah.
lower heaven. Yeah.
Even Adam, I think that green carpets, God is still describing the beauty of that, right?
Right. True.
Like
Oh yeah.
we see the green carpeting of a beautiful landscape, like let's say they really make nice these golf grounds, right?
Hmm.
Nice, even beautiful green carpeting of grass. So when God gives the example of like flowing streams and green and this and that, it's describing the beauty of what we see here, right?
Right.
When we go to a beautiful resort or like we see highlands of, green carpeting. I think it's more like that kind of carpeting of what we see here, like grass and even beautiful lush green meadows and those things. I think it wasn't like literally um, a wool rug or something like that.
I guess one way you can look at it, like if you go to the airport and if you're traveling economy, there's economy waiting room where the furnitures or things are just regular, and if you need to buy, you have to buy your own drink and food. But those in the VIP side
Mm-hmm.
lounge, they have nice luxury
Mm-hmm.
sitting, and they have food, free food,
Oh
anything they
yeah,
want
yeah,
before the
refreshments.
flight. Oh yeah, everything. So that's probably one of the comparison.
Yep. Mashallah. You know how much joy you feel when we see God has a reason to even describe like step by step and everything about heaven, right? How much He can. I mean, what how much we need to know. Not that God can immensely. Of course, He has described well enough for our mind to understand that. Otherwise, God could just say, heaven is beautiful and hell is very miserable. But every situation, we could help us make a decision and choose heaven over hell. God is not leaving any detail out of it. So much detail is provided that we have to pay attention. That something might click to our mind and we say, man, I really don't want to be in that place.
Yeah, one time we have to go do some kind of work somewhere. I forgot, and then I was telling somebody else. Some kind of that incident happened, and then where I didn't explain what kind of work would that be, and so let's go. It's gonna be fine. Let's go. It's some sort of volunteer work or something like that. And we went there, and that person like, oh well, you didn't tell me about this. Well, you didn't tell me about that. And then I realized I should have explained a little more what to expect over there. So here, God is just like you say that God is not saying it's bad place. God is literally spelling it out. This is what you can expect. So nobody in hell would ever say that, God, you didn't tell me. It would be that
Exactly.
bad, you know? MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Exactly. Did I not? God will, like I pointed out everything about that choice.
Yeah, the food and everything, the drinks.
Yeah. Oh
MashaAllah.
my gosh.
One thing I think about is that the elite of the elite will have very, very few people because those people they took advantage of when it was given to repent in the previous life. They took advantage, and as we understand, they go to lower heaven, right? Because the opportunity to going to higher heaven was to come to this world and submit to God alone and worship Him in this kind of environment. So otherwise, we would have all done the same thing. So we took that risk to coming to this world, and then think about it: the people with messengers, they were messengers and prophets. Would we can easily imagine they go to the higher heaven, But how many people actually follow their prophets and messengers? Look at the example of Moses. Like even when the magicians fell prostrate, I mean, it would like Satan would be laughing. Don't worry about it. We have time. We will get them sooner or later. And you see at the end of the picture that only two people were submitting at the right and the door of the I think the Jerusalem when God commanded him go enter, and the only two people were like saying we should follow what God is saying. And we can see the similar examples with other people. And look at with even Messenger of the Covenant. With him, there were a group of people. Like how fast people start dropping off. And imagine how many people will actually make it to elite of the elite. Very few, extremely rare. You will see hell is crowded, and you will see middle heaven, the lower heaven is also have a lot of people, because a lot of people died before 40, and many are able to enter. But elite of the elite, you mean I would see like very, very handful of people would go. What do you think about that?
God says, many from the early generations, few from the later generations.
But
Right. Even with the messengers, there are like already few. How many will afterward would be like? It will be even less, right?
I elite of the elite would be very few. The high, I think there's lower heaven, high heaven, and the third category is a very special people, a group of very special people, which will be the elite of the elite. That's like a.
No, the high heaven is the elite of the elite.
Mhm.
God
But
says there's
Salman,
only two categories.
just discuss this.
There's total three categories.
I
There's
know.
people who go to hell, then there's people who go to lower heaven, then there's people who go to high heaven. God says the people who go to high heaven, they will be the elite of the elite. So
Isn't
it's
it
not
God
a
says
third.
then there will be elite of the elite,
No,
closest to
that's describing the category of the high heaven. The people who go to high heaven, they are all elite of the elite. That's why they go to high heaven, because they're the elite. The elite goes to high heaven, others go to the lower heaven. So that's what makes it elite.
oh, okay. I thought like a very, there is high heaven and the very a small group of people will be just closest to God. So high heaven is the closest
There'll
to
be
God.
three types of heaven, right? But there's two types.
Okay.
So the elite is the high, and then the rest are in the lower class. There's a lower class, and then there's the elite class.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
First
Okay.
class, business class.
It's not too complicated.
Okay. I thought it would be just like a very elite group of people separated in high heaven somewhere, but very close to God.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh well.
Yeah, even in this surah, God says that there will be stratified in three different groups: elite of the elite, the high heaven, and the lower heaven, and the people go in hell. So purgatory probably will not be there forever. After everything is said and done,
Yeah,
there
it'll
will be like
become part
three.
of heaven in
Mhm.
lower heaven.
Permanent place. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll go either one. Most likely go to heaven, I guess. They're right in the borderline.
Yeah. No, they will go to lower heaven for
They
sure.
will, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not
God
that
says that, right?
if they were destined for hell, they would not be there. God chose them to be have. It would be something in between, you know, at that time. So like
Have
a
you,
special mission place. It's a special program for them. Oh.
if you take a balloon and fill it with water, and inside is all liquid, and just the balloon layer is just holding the water in a place. Our Earth is exactly like that. The outer part of the crust is so thin, and it's just everything that we build on it, all the buildings and the mountains, everything is right on the crust, and that's very thin layer compared to the inner part of the Earth, which is the liquid. The very innermost part of the Earth is so hot. Some say that isn't hotter than the sun. So we're literally living on the sun. And as God says in here that you're shaking up, just imagine the mountains. Like if you take a platform and you build something with sand, like structures, and you shake it, everything will become leveled.
You will be in heaven.
And in some kind of that sense, God is going to shake the earth so badly that all the structures will be just leveled out.
Like you
And
should
I mean, just imagine how horrible that picture is.
Only, inshallah. Look at you, you're so lucky. I want to be in heaven too, inshallah.
Masha Allah. Yeah, I knew that we can hear you, by the way.
Oh my God! Oh, you can hear me. I was talking to my dog.
I'm like,
Oh, I thought
are
that
you
was
okay?
Oh my God! I'm so embarrassed.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
Masha Allah. Yeah, I was just saying, like, if you read, verse 7, verse 7, 8, and 9 and 10, like, it says that there'll be three kinds: those who deserve bliss, those who deserve misery, and the elite of the elite. So that being the high heaven, those who deserve bliss will be lower heaven, and then those who deserve misery will be hell. So three categories there.
Yeah, mashallah.
sorry, guys. I got carried away. I was
No, it's okay.
like,
When you have a baby in the family, it's so cute. It's easy to get carried away.
my dog is
I would get carried
baby
away.
forever. And he was like lying in my lap, and I'm like, oh, you are so lucky. You're going to heaven for sure. They don't have to do any work.
Why is he leaving the world or something?
Huh?
Sending
No,
him to heaven?
no, I looked at them with this certainty that for sure
Oh,
they're going to heaven. Even though I always miss them. Like when my previous dog died, I
oh, you're
cried.
talking about your dog. I thought you were talking about your.
No, no, it was my dog.
Okay, I thought you were talking about your grandson. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. Oh, God forbid. No,
Oh,
I'm going to say,
okay.
hey, you're
Oh,
going to heaven for this.
okay, Masha.
I don't know about them. I don't know about any
Yeah,
soul.
dog especially. Oh, Masha Allah.
Oh, dog. I'm
Okay.
like, she was smiling at me and I was patting her.
Uh-huh.
It was like being kind of envious. Like,
SubhanAllah. Yeah.
they took a smaller, subdued role,
Mm-hmm.
but they have no worries. They
Mm-hmm.
have no worries. They're definitely making it.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
This actually happened about a couple of years ago in the morning news, and I was just watching that, and they were talking about and just randomly asking different people, "What do you have to die? What if you die today?" They're actually asking that question. Who would you want to take with you? And there's some person say, "I will take my dog with me," and everybody, why? Why would you want to do that? Why do you want to take your dog with you? I mean, it's like they were projecting death is a very, very bad thing, and taking your dog with you is going to take your dog with you
That's
to.
them there.
Yeah, yeah, and they
Well,
actually
dog
discuss.
is gonna say, "Hey, why are you tagging along with me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm going the other way.
Hasta la vista, baby."
Yeah, I already repented. You think about yourself.
Yeah.
So, SubhanAllah, I mean, there's so many characteristics about heaven that God has mentioned for us to make it, a desirable place to be. And I think one of my favorite ones is that, you don't hear any nonsense therein.
Mm-hmm.
Nor any sinful utterances. I mean, it's like, we hear it all the time, and God knows that it's not a pleasant thing for believers, or righteous people, to hear nonsense and
Yeah.
whatever. But that's all we hear
Anything,
all the time, all around us.
yeah. Anything which can have a negative impact,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of energy would not even exist there.
Mm-hmm.
It creates bad energy. Like, let's say you're sitting in a company, or people are having nice talk, and suddenly somebody comes with a sarcastic, dark remark, nonsense, and then it affects everybody. That energy affects everybody in the room, right? No matter, like, you didn't participate in that conversation or even not.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear that nonsense, it just takes away the whole mood,
Yeah,
right? It's that kind of
yeah,
nonsense will not even exist.
yeah. Definitely means no Trump or
No,
people
no
like that.
Trump. Exactly. No Trump. Oh, everything about him just creates this ripple effect of negative energy.
What do you think? What do you guys think about these servants? Immortal servants.
Well, God would create
Yeah.
creatures to be happy in their job,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody will be getting tired, Solomon. There, even
Mm-hmm.
those servants, they will have a role to play. So
Oh,
God can create a creation which
yeah.
is very happy. In remember, they will be in a paradise too, right?
Yeah.
But because they did not work so hard, which humans did to get to that point. I mean, it's not easy to achieve heaven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, right? God's
Yeah.
reward is so immense for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a soul created just to be happy in that role, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because they will be still in
Yeah.
paradise.
And I mean, imagine like, I mean, we know this is all allegorical, but
Right,
still,
right.
yeah. When it says that, the servants will look like scattered pearls, so even it's such an exquisite um, place that even the servants will look so presentable and nice.
Yeah, and
Like if you go to
pleasant.
like a palace or something, like
Mm.
grand palace, and you see the people that work there, they're in nice, beautiful uniforms and stuff, or something like that. You can imagine. So I think it's kind of like that. Like even your servants will be so like well dressed and so presentable and
Yeah,
good. Like when you have, let's say, when you have a restaurant or something, like a really high end restaurant, and they
yeah,
have servers. I mean, they make sure those servers are young and beautiful, or if
yeah.
they're men, they're
Very
nice looking
nice
and
white
stuff like
gloves
that,
and
and they're
serving them.
well dressed and well
Yeah.
mannered and all that. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So you have servants, and then you have all this endless supply of things that never runs out. Like I remember I used to read those stories when I was a kid. And there's like a magic pot and there's porridge that never runs out, and it's so fascinating that the more you take, the more porridge it makes, and it's like the same allegory kind of. Like you'll have as much as you want, like it never runs out, and whatever you want will be there. I mean, who wouldn't want that, or who wouldn't want to strive for something like that, except people who don't believe it at all, right?
And I mean, God can create a creature, right? I mean, God can create anything, and God says never getting tired, right, of serving you. So no
Mm-hmm.
matter how many times you ask Him, "Can you bring me this? Can you bring me that? Or bring me this, bring me that?" That creature or whatever those God can create, like we don't know what kind of servants would that be.
Mm-hmm.
So they they're like they have this energy that will they never get bored of serving you. They're enjoying what they're doing. So
Mm-hmm.
God can just design a creation which is
Mm-hmm.
just for that purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just like it says, they'll have meats of birds that they desire, right? So I mean,
And fruits they desire.
similar. Yeah. So I mean, similar things. Like I mean, they're obviously not birds from here, that live
Right.
here. So
Yeah.
there will be different. Um,
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Thank you, God, for sending this book our way to even knowing the difference of and knowing in detail the reward. What a motivation, extremely motivating. It's like, you go to a seminar where motivational speakers are there. They say, okay, you do this and that next level is you will be earning this much money, right?
yeah.
Imagine big house. These
Mm-hmm.
corporations, they have these
Mm-hmm.
motivational seminars. They're all about this
Mm.
life and then
Yeah.
how.
Success.
Oh, and they're just selling you this idea, like, and
Mm.
you come out of their seminar and you're all pumped up.
Yeah.
You're like, that's it, man. Focus on getting the reward. Focus, and they tell you about focus so much. Actually, make this thing your god.
Mm-hmm.
That power of whatever
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Yeah. With wealth,
Yeah,
there's
with wealth, like you think about
yeah.
something, it will happen. It
Yeah.
means so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
God says, yeah, whatever
Yeah.
occupies your mind most of the time will become your God.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, okay, that you give that thing so much power, it's yours.
So.
I give it to you, that too. It's not that that thing will start flying towards you.
Mm-hmm.
God will say, okay, have it.
So. Um. Also another comment I wanted to make was on verse 45. It's about talking about the people who are in hell. and God says here, it says they used to be rich, right? So this is most people. This is to show that, I mean, most people, who earn these worldly materials of this world are most likely, unhappy people. uh, and these are people that became rich by, most of them would, I guess, be rich by, because they don't believe in the hereafter, through means that are not legitimate, like they cheat people out of their rights, and they're dishonest people, and corrupt. And so just the part where it talks about being rich, it doesn't so a lot of people look just a point I made before as well is like a lot of people just take richness in itself in isolation as a sign of God's favor, and they think that if you're rich, that God must have seen the good in you and the fact that you can handle it and whatnot, and they give you, and that means like you're more righteous than other people. I mean, it sounds like an obvious one for most of us, but I mean, I have actually heard it so many times now, said in different ways, where people make this comment. Usually people who are slightly richer than others, use this point to make them tap themselves on the back and add to their arrogance, to say that because they have more money, apparently, that they're better than other people, and they use it as a means of dominance, in around others. And but this is not the case. And obviously, if you have wealth, I mean, you're tested with lack of wealth and you're tested with abundance of wealth.
Exactly.
So the thing is that, and it's temporary, but what we do with it is what matters, right? I mean, Solomon had all the riches in this world, and he was probably, nobody will be as rich as he was if you look at it. But the thing is that he was righteous. Now we have examples of Pharaoh and examples of Karun and all these other people that were also rich and kings and whatnot, but obviously their wealth did not help them at all against God as we know it. And so the only way, so what really matters at the end of the day is not the fact that you were because you were rich, this idea that because you're rich you must be better than someone else. In that sense, that's a wrong understanding. I mean, to be rich is better. It's better to be rich than to be poor for a believer, so that you can strive in the cause of God. But if you're just rich on its own, and you can't use that as a means to say that because I'm rich, I'm better. If because you could be a hypocrite, for all that, so
No,
um
the wealth and the lack of
yeah.
it will both will you will be
Yeah.
affected, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. And a
And
lot of people will not. I mean, a lot of people will look down on people who are being tested at the time with
hmm.
lack of wealth, and then but then when they are being tested with richness, then they don't think that they're being tested. They just think, oh well, I deserve it.
Right, exactly. And God has given those examples.
Yeah.
When God removed that adversity, they say, "Oh, I deserved it." Subhanallah, such a complete book. Praise be to God.
You
Every
know, I'm
every
sorry.
situation is described.
What I notice in life is that the more people get wealth, the more stingy they become. I've seen people becoming rich from nothing, and they were far more generous then. But when more money came their way, the more tighter. And some, like I've seen, becoming millionaire, and they even became more tighter with their money
Mm.
to giving to anyone. So
Yeah.
that's in itself is a test,
It's a
mashallah.
different kind of test. And
Right,
they're both tests. When God can hold provision, and that there is a test, and that has a different kind of test. Then
right,
giving abundance of wealth is absolutely a different kind of test. So both actually have same value if you look at it.
right,
Same value. The outcome is not gonna be like something you're going against in both situations. So it's God is the most just God, and He designs the test according to what our need, our soul needs to accomplish from that test, because God knows us from the original time, right? That what situation should we put in first and after. And some people are in the beginning, not much, and suddenly they have, and I have seen those submitters, and they just like became something else, right? And some starts with adversity, and then you go through, but there is a reason that only God knows. We really are like, we don't have that kind of intelligence that we will think why this me first and that, because we just need to submit. We Happiness is in submission, the peace you acquire under all circumstances. Actually, if you look at it, abundance of wealth is a bigger task, because then God says, do not hoard, and count. And how many people you think would do that? People get lost in having more, counting more. Now, how are my stocks going? And what about this? And what about purchasing this and that and investments? And, you know, and are they equitable in being that much charitable? Are they taking care of more people with more money?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if God says in one place, we did in a previous Quran study that they're stingy, the stingy are stingy towards their soul. So if you can really analyze, we look at the physical body, we see what we believe, but we don't see the soul part of ourselves. So if you can literally see the process of happening, if you go and give charity to somebody, and if you can see the whole picture, you will actually see that money taken by the poor person converting into so much more wealth, and you can see your soul standing next to you, and all the money going to your soul account. Then what would you do? You will invest more and more in that way, because that's the best investment you can have. It's just a lack of the belief that we think that we're giving it to poor and we are losing that money. It's going away, but it's the other way around. Actually, the poor person is a blessing. What if nobody was poor in the world? Who would you give money to? This is actually a blessing. If you can find poor people and give them more generously, because you're actually giving it to yourself, not to that poor person. And you should be thankful to that person. If the person tell you that thank you for giving money, say no, 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 don't thank me, thank you. I thank you too. So that's the case, mashallah.
We have a question. Did anybody watch PK movie?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, wrong number. Everybody's dialing wrong number, basically,
What
pretty
is
much.
Yeah, it's about
it? Bollywood?
Yeah.
yeah. It's Amar Khan. Yeah,
No, I don't watch Indian movies.
yeah. No, you should probably watch that one. It's good. Yeah, it's not like the typical Bollywood
No,
movie.
no, no, I know.
Zara hatke hai.
Yeah.
There is one Akshay Kumar's movie
Reminds me
too.
of the joke one you and I shared, Salman, about someone. Zara hatke hai. You know, you remember?
What's that?
You commented about somebody. Zara hatke hai. And then we laughed.
I forgot.
Huh?
I forgot.
You forgot? You said
Yeah.
it about somebody we were just talking about earlier, too.
Oh. Okay.
Somebody.
Right.
Zara hatke hai.
Yeah. With the twist. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try. These days, I really have no time, my God.
I think it's on Netflix too now, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
One thing I wanted to say about the servants that you're talking about. Like when you go to like a fine restaurant, sometimes they don't make it right or something. You get angry, you scream at them. They still smile back at you, because maybe inside they're feeling upset with you, but they kind of hold the grudge inside. But they're gonna smile back at you because they know it's their job, their tip, and everything is dependent on it. But in the heaven, first of all, God said the utterance will be only peace. So you will never even feel madness in you. There's no factor of that. There's no mistakes. There's no something anger or jealousy or none of that. So even those servants that's serving you in that world, they all love God. So when they see these people, when they see their track record, that wow, these people went to earth and they wholeheartedly accepted God and they worship God, they would actually love to serve them. Okay, in that kind of environment, they were worshiping God, and they're such a God-loving people, and they would wholeheartedly service these people. Even these servants have soul in them. They would most likely love to do that, and they will be immortal. As science tells us, the human body can be immortal. Like Noah, people lived 900 plus years, because our cells are designed a way that they can reproduce infinitely, and you will live younger. But there's a system, there's some like I think they call it telenol or something in your cells. They get shortened every time your cell divides, which causes you to get old. So your body in itself can live forever. So these people are, even if they have soul or not, look at the robots that, and probably in future we will have robots just like some of like the movies, like they will serve you,
Yeah,
uh,
I
and I'm sorry, go
angels
ahead.
are serving us. Can you imagine serving
Hmm.
human beings could come take carrying out God's commandments like heavy duty work they're doing, and that would
Right,
be God can create a creation with soul and everything. Not um, who knows what kind of creation that can be a special creation, you know.
right,
So imagine like 50. God says 50,000 years. They're gyrating, going up, bringing rains, and doing all that, and taking being stuck with us, recording and everything, taking care of billions. We don't even know how many angels are just working for this earth and people.
right. True.
Mashallah.
Think about the airplane, that so many tons of people, the load it takes, and is a made material, object made of earthly material, and takes off in the air and takes you over your destination, all working hard for you. You're
And
just sitting on the chair.
no, and they never get tired. They never have any gesture of like absolute obedient.
Right,
Subhanallah. Just imagine that serving these, protecting these humans and bringing us provisions and rain and whatnot.
right.
To God.
And their spouses will be, we can only imagine what, if you ever watched the Shrek movie, and one of the series have this gingerbread man. It's just a funny thing. I was just watching it, and then the gingerbread is made of a cookie material, like it's like a cookie, and it's actually a creature, and it goes to the bakery, and it tells the person who makes the cookie, say, create me a female cookie. That is so sweet, lovely, and it's a very funny
Oh
part
yeah,
to
that's
see.
so cute. Yeah,
You
that's
seen that?
yeah.
And he starts putting sugar, and he said, put more sugar. I said, no. The guy said, it's dangerous. No, no, add more and more sugar. So he makes that female cookie that is so extremely sweet. It's a funny part too. That's my sugar.
Okay. SubhanAllah. Okay.
Marshall, these Quran studies are so awesome. You have like twice a week. You just really get energized.
SubhanAllah.
Without it, you just start draining our battery. I mean, this really helps us a lot, Marshall.
MashaAllah. So, I guess if nobody else has any other comments or questions, we could probably conclude the study. What do you guys think? Unless somebody has any off-topic questions. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I guess yeah, we could do that. So thank you guys for joining the study. God willing, our next study is going to be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and God willing, our teacher would be. Uh, either myself or maybe maybe Adam, because usually Adam, could you do Tuesday, or you want me to do it? Okay, maybe I should ask Ali. Ali, you want? Okay, I think God willing, I'll we'll probably sort that out, God willing. So thank you all for joining us. God bless you guys. Assalamu alaikum.